Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And very happy to welcome Dr. Kelly Bohnhoff here. And she's an author, a speaker, and she also helps families through traumas, that kind of thing. So we're going to get to know her and have a great conversation. So, Dr. Kelly, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be here, Kyle. Well, like most families, mine parachuted into the world. I have two parents, and I was the oldest of four children with three siblings. And as the oldest, there were three important things I realized right away. It felt to me like I was just saturated in fear. I call it the shark tank of energy. And when I was small, I had three important ideas that kind of navigated me through that first part of the journey, which was to keep my mother healthy, to keep my father happy, and to keep my siblings safe. And those were very, very important to me. And as I picked up some beliefs that actually I come to find out later weren't mine, which was that I was unlovable, unworthy, or not enough, I found myself in a situation when I was 10 years old where I was invited to an overnight, and there was something inside me that said, do not go there. But I was so excited to be invited, and I was really wanting a break from my life at home. And so I went. And that night was the first night of when I was what I call caught in the net of trafficking. Now, this happens to children that are vulnerable, and the family that was down the street, this had been a part of their ancestral trauma and karma as well. And so little did 10-year-old Kelly know that for the next couple years, she would be exploring the energy of trafficking. Now, I say it in that way because and became a trauma therapist. It was very important to me to help those children and teens and those who grew in to be adults and parents to understand what that journey was. Now, it's interesting because I never told my parents. No one ever knew that I was going through this process. And so it wasn't until we moved away when I was 12 that I was disconnected from that particular exploration. So we're going to go fast forward. I got married. I had two beautiful children. I've got two beautiful granddaughters now. But it was the pandemic pause, which I call the pause is the possibility of aligning to universal source energy. The pandemic pause caused this fracture, is what it feels to me like, in my being, where as an essential worker, I could no longer see the children that were in foster care or adoption or in the juvenile court system or wherever they were in the schools. Everything was closed down. And I had an absolute breakdown. So my mental, emotional, physical breakdown. So at the point that the pandemic had started in the late 2020, I hit that wall of existential crisis, which was, well, who am I if I'm not serving these beautiful children and families? And by then I was struggling with addiction to alcohol, Percocet. I had every coping mechanism you can imagine. I call them the three Ps: Patron, pastries, and purchases. Three coping mechanisms. And my body was absolutely riddled in pain. And so I did something I had never done before, and I had been in therapy for decades, but what I had never tried was acupuncture. And when I went to acupuncture, all of those needles opened up the energy centers of my body. Now, I didn't know I was energy. I had no idea our family was energy, and I didn't know I was living in a world filled with energy, although I knew it when I was small. But it flooded my system with all the toxins and all of the dense energy that I hadn't processed. And that was when I had the awakening dream. And from that point on, in the last 4 years, I've had the honor of healing all addictions. I'm completely free of prescription medications of all kinds. I'm healthier than I've ever been. And the book was born out of the understanding of, from the beginning, when my parents and I and siblings parachuted in, the pre-planning around that, and then what it is that the 6 of us were actually here to explore together, and then to help the world discover about other traumatized families. And so the book is the totality of what I discovered so far and how families can heal themselves. And so it's an exciting place to be now. So I was able to transform fear into freedom. And my lived experience in devotion now is to help families around the world to do the same.
When I was 12, that's when I first started to experiment with alcohol and drugs, and it became a full-blown addiction. It started with just marijuana, and then tried acid. And I mean, it'd be probably quicker to tell you the stuff I didn't try, but I got really bad into cocaine for quite a long time. And I'm going to say I was about 36 when I had a heart attack, and found out I really needed to get off of that stuff. I'd quit for a while, got back on the drugs, quit, started back up, drinking and doing the drugs. And finally, I think when I got custody of my boys is when I decided it's really time to grow up. Well, fast forward, I end up with the spinal disease, and I'm in pain all the time. So I mean, I do try things outside of drugs, but I really need something to help. And I told my doctor straight up, I said, look, I'm an addict. If you put me on these opioids and things like that, I'm gonna abuse them. Might as well come right out and tell you. And they gave me, it's a methadone basically.
Right.
It's off label for pain, but I don't have that addictive feeling, and I don't feel like I need to go in there and keep getting a buzz and that kind of thing. So when someone goes, they have an accident or they have something like I have where they're in pain, do you have alternatives that you can recommend outside of all these pills?
Yeah, so having lived this experience personally, one of the things I now understand about pain, so whether it's mental unease, so again, we all catch the diagnoses, right? So my diagnoses were complex PTSD and major depression, for instance. My dis-ease labels were, sciatica, high blood pressure, obesity, metabolic syndrome. I mean, I had so many diagnoses that I just stopped looking at them because really those labels are not who we truly are. So pain is a symptom, wherever it is in the body, of your mind, body, and spirit, that part of ourselves that is infinite intelligence, pure love, and sacred energy, just saying we're not in alignment. So the pain in my back, for instance, with the sciatica, which is the pain that was causing me to scream, was related to my anger and rage energetically. And so what I understood through the chakra system or the energy systems of healing. So it's interesting because as a scientist, I learned all about the mind through the psychology, and I learned about the body through the nursing. But nowhere in kindergarten did someone tell me about the energy healing, this energy type of healing that you can move the actual density that's causing that physical and emotional pain out and through your body safely, with assistance and bridging with the medical field, which is what I did. I actually made sure to taper very carefully from the medicine, using energy medicine and healing. And so once I realized that the sciatica the inflammation, which everyone has, the inflammation that is the stress, which is the struggle to remember the energy of our sacred sovereignty. Once we begin understanding we are also energy, the inflammation in my body, all it was saying was, and it took me 57 years to understand this, which was all the inflammation was saying was, you're really mad and you're really sad. And if you can move the energy of sad, mad, then your physical pain will decrease over time. And I'm like, really? This sounds a little woo-woo. So what I did was I listened to my guidance and I did two things. The first thing I did was I went to boxing. I boxed for 1 year straight to move the energy out of my system. The second thing I did was I heard about these rage rooms. So I went to the rage rooms, and I thought at first I wasn't going to be able to destroy anything in there because everything was so lovely. But then I just tapped into this rage and this sadness that was ancestral and karmic. And I just started swinging and screaming. And it's a safe place in the rage rooms to do that. So once I spent that time moving the anger and the rage and the fury out of my system, and with the help of tapering medication and then the energy healing through Reiki and acupuncture, and then moving in nature, laying on the ground to ground, all of that pain is gone. But it was because I added the third element, which is the most important element, which is the healing of the energy that was blocking my energy centers, the 7 chakras. And most families have, you have a junk drawer, Kyle, in your house. Do you have a junk drawer?
I think everyone
So if you
does.
think about a junk drawer, yeah. So if you open a junk drawer and it's got a lot of stuff in it, and you're like, well, there's that thing I've been looking for 10 years. And so what I always imagined was in the very base of our body is the root chakra, which is where our safety and security is. Just imagine my junk drawer of ancestral trauma, karma, and then what I had explored here in this lifetime. And I opened the drawer and I looked at it and I'm like, oh, that's a lot of debris. That's a lot of junk. That's a lot of stuff I just don't need. So the thoughts I think, the words I speak, the beliefs I hold, the emotions I feel, and the actions I take were all in that junk drawer related to suffering and survival. And one of the many ahas I had, Kyle, was that I was addicted to suffering itself. Whoa, what now? So one of the things that's going on with humanity and our beautiful families is we are healing, are honoring the energy aligned with love. We are healing the addictions to pain, to struggle, to suffering, and to survival. And what's so fascinating is that many of us don't even know we're on the merry-go-round of survival. We don't even realize we're traumatized as a family. We just think this is kind of a normal way. This is how it works in the world. Well, we have normalized it as humanity to be traumatized, but I will tell you that it's not natural. This is not our natural state of being. So in answer to your question, the way that I healed the unrelenting chronic pain was actually the mental, emotional pain was causing the physical pain. And once I realized that the physical pain was the very last stage, that I realized I had been holding a lot of mental and emotional anguish in this lifetime that was unprocessed, no matter how much medication or how many hours of therapy I had. It wasn't getting to the root cause of the suffering, which was I had lost my, or it had been diminished. So we're dimmed down, dialed down, and dumbed down when we're children, really young, if we are an adverse environment. And so something has to give. And what gave was my sacred nature, which is worthy of unconditional love, had to move into the back seat in order for me to survive. You have to survive first in order to remember and awaken to the truth of who you are. But I just didn't awaken until 57 years later. And it's because I kept hitting the cosmic snooze button. I kept saying, maybe next year I'll wake up, maybe next year. And my guides and angels and ancestors and everybody said, time's up, sister. You got to bring a message to the world, which means you're going to have to bring through and heal all of what has been collected. through ancestry and also in this lifetime, and also any karma, which is really just this balancing of anything if I didn't remember my true nature and another expression of life, which is kind of this idea of reincarnation, then I've pulled that in here so that I can heal it in this particular expression. So we are all undergoing a beautiful opportunity to heal all that is, and our families are a part of that amazing first wave of brilliant, brave, and beautiful souls that said, we will remember even if and when we are moving through this very heavy energy of suffering.
You believe this would apply to something, say, like fibromyalgia? We have a friend of ours who had it, and it's very debilitating, and you just watched him suffer all the time.
Yes, and as a nurse, Kyle, you know, I wasn't a stranger to the heavier, darker energy. Suffering was a place I felt very comfortable, not just as a human being, but as someone who cared for people who were suffering, right? Mm-hmm. I understand it at a very deep level, and I needed to in order to see it from an expanded perspective. What we have uncovered with epigenetics, and this is modern science now, is that our thoughts actually speak to our DNA, divine nature in us all, and the cells of our body. So if I say to myself, this pain is never going to end, this is just the way it is, I'm just going to have a chronic illness, I'm just going to be addicted to Patron and opioids the rest of my life, I guess I'm just going to have to gut this thing out. Well, then your body will actually accommodate you. Those are your thoughts, those are the words you speak, those are the beliefs you hold, the feeling of sadness, frustration, helplessness, hopelessness, and then the action you take is just to keep that going, right?
Right.
I believe that every unease, mental unease, and every physical disease can be healed by the individual by shifting their awareness into their own inner guidance system and their own powerful ability to manifest the version of well-being that they desire. And I got to tell you, if you had asked me about that statement 5 years ago, I would have said, I don't think so. But had I not experienced it personally, had I not just been through this process myself, here's what I know. The world around us will lead us to believe that we are not powerful and that we need all of these outside systems of family and government and healthcare and technology to tell us who we are and how we can heal. Mm-hmm. And that we have explored that energy. And I got to say, I just choose to see a different way of moving through the world and being free and being my own healer. And I set that intention, I practiced the intention, I devoted myself to that intention every day. And I'm just having a conversation with you right now, Kyle, as a lived experience to say, it can happen, it has happened, and it is happening for me.
Well, I know meditation, and I've talked about this in a lot of different episodes. Meditation has helped me tremendously as far as my mental state goes. Because like you, I went through depression, PTSD, anxiety. I mean, you name it, they have a pill for it. But the pills didn't work, or they made me feel worse. And once I got into meditation, it was like night and day. And I stress this on every one of those programs that I'm not a doctor, so I'm just telling you my experience. I was able to wean myself off of those drugs, and I don't need them anymore. And you're talking about somebody that couldn't even get on a subway when we went to New York, but that meditation, I was able to do it. It's incredible.
It is, and it's hard to describe to someone who hasn't lived that experience personally, which is why in the book I talk about we're all on the hero's journey, and everybody has an opportunity to answer the call to adventure. Now, we're all, if you imagine us in this beautiful ocean of energy, and right now the world seems to be in an ocean of very turbulent, polarized energy. So how does someone, when you look at, if you watch the news or the advertisements, if you just notice closely, this is the game I play, does that ad or that person or that show or whatever, are these disempowering or empowering messages? And I get to choose what I put into my mind, what I put into my body, and what I do to keep my spirit even and empowered. And so what has happened to our beautiful families as we've been in trauma for eons of time? You know, our DNA is carrying all of these codes that are lighting up like the 4th of July with these solar flares coming in, and our families are more spicy words are flying and passionate animation. You know, everybody's getting into it. You know, the relationships that are ending, there's people falling out of our lives, and everybody's like, what is absolutely going on here? Well, what's going on is we have agreed to heal these dynamics. And for those, so if we just see our families as the quantum family, we're just energy dancing in energy. So if there is a dynamic of unkindness, let's just say between a couple people, and if there's someone who understands, I'm just dancing in the energy of unkindness with someone, and I can choose in this moment to stop and be still, drop into 3 breaths, and be in the moment, then I can actually disrupt this energy of unkindness. The only reason that energy keeps flowing between anyone, including ourselves within, is because we're just so used to it. It's just a habit. So all it takes is just, if you just imagine yourself on a stage with a person or people, and it's starting to feel real heavy, that energy. We know what heavy energy feels like. We know that what the energy feels like when things are being said and the angry and all that. Now you're on a stage with the person. Well, just pretend you're in the front row watching the interaction. You're just in the front row watching the energy flow. Nothing personal, feels personal, but you're just watching energy flow between 2 people. Still feels too close. Things are being said that aren't very kind. You move yourself to the back row. The back row is now, oh, I'm going to take a breath. We're in an energy dynamic that I'm choosing to heal. And if it still feels too heavy, you go into the balcony and you may say, can I get 10 minutes? Because I'm going to go rest my mind and my heart, because I truly want to be able to see you as the infinite intelligence, pure love, and sacred energy that you are. We're all interconnected. So if I'm hurting you or harming you and we're not in harmony but in harm, then it's just hurting me too. And so once people kind of have this understanding that they can interrupt this, what I call life in the fast lane flow of energy, then now they have taken their power back to shift, which is the sacred healing of individual family trauma. The shift, which is what we're in a shift show. You take your power back and you say, we're going to take the first step in the direction of healing, which means I'm going to remove myself from the energy that is happening right here. Just gonna take a minute, because I really want to heal myself and I want to heal this pattern, because it's healing of the pattern. So energy, and seeing my family as energy, and then noticing over the last 3.5 years, my husband and I came from the energy of trauma in our childhoods, and we intentionally turned back into the trauma of our family lines to see if we could sit in the midst of whatever was happening at a family reunion or a party or whatever it was. We actually moved away as far as we could geographically from our families, but we would fly back, and we sat in the living rooms and we just became compassionate observers, witnesses. And over the last 3 years, Kyle, what I will tell you is that without saying a word to any of our families about just trying to hold the sacred space seeing our families as sacred beings having a human experience. Our family interactions and dynamics have shifted so dramatically with the energy shifts alone that when they turn and they ask us, what are you doing? Or why are you so happy? Or how come you're not? So for me, as Dr. Kelly, how come you're not drinking? Right? And then that door opens and I can tell them what I'm doing. But I actually keep it secret until they ask, because when they ask, now they're interested. Right?
Right.
So that's how our families are healing, and it's a unfolding process. So I realized, Kyle, that I don't have a family life. My family is life. And if I can see them as life, and if I can see myself as life, and we're all interconnected, now I have some expanded space to hold sacred love in the midst of, even if I don't understand what the dynamic is, I can say life is for me, which is new, because I truly believed life was against me. That's the first relationship I healed, was that life didn't happen to me, life is for me. And it's taken these last 4 years to build that trust again with life itself. So those are just some of the insights so far that I have walking my own self. I don't know that we're walking each other home either. I hear that a lot. I think we're surfing each other into the vibration of home. I think we're all really homesick for that unity and harmony and love. And we're here to heal trauma, unlock our hidden power, and remember what is sacred forever. So I believe humanity will heal adverse childhood experiences. And one day we will look back and go, wow, that was actually a thing that we grew through, and we have built now as a species more compassion from. We are more compassionate beings, having been through what we have. And I'm honored to be on the earth right now. I think our family is a mission. Very, very happy to be here.
Do you work with individuals one-on-one?
I do not work on it with individuals one-on-one as a practice, but here's what I do say. If there are someone, what I've noticed is that when someone or a family comes into my awareness here, I live in Loveland, Ohio, and they say, can you help me, or will you talk to me, or whatever all that is, then I absolutely do. So although I'm still licensed right now, my guidance is to bring the message into a worldwide momentum. So the YouTube channel is coming online soon and that kind of thing. But as I am called to, as people show up in my awareness, and if they feel led to ask me, then I do honor the invitation.
And where can people buy your book?
Well, everyone can find me right now on onesacredfamily.com. And the book is on Amazon. Here, what's going on with my family, a roadmap to healing trauma, unlocking your hidden power, and remembering what is sacred. And for those of you who aren't big on reading, paperback, hardback, or Kindle, you can listen to it. I did narrate it. So feel free to download that if you like.
And what is your social media?
Well, I'm on YouTube. Well, actually, I'll be on YouTube. Sorry, but you can when you go to onesacredfamily.com, the links to Facebook and Instagram are there for you.
Well, I'm going to share those in the description to make it easier for folks to find you. But Dr. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on my show today.
Thank you, Kyle. It's been an honor. I have loved co-creating this with you, and I am so thankful that you're here.
I appreciate that. And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. And for my regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Till the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network